AAUW is me.
I wanted to meet some new people and do some different things. And I also wanted to be part of an organization that had a social commitment to young women and the community at large.
I want to be a contributing member of an organization where women help women in promoting education, in making friends, in entertaining one another, and in sharing ideas about this world.
Women would want to join the AAUW because we have a very fierce commitment to equality and equity for women and girls. And if that's something that you're interested in, this is one of the best venues to help channel that energy.
Hello, welcome to AAUW Connections. Tonight we have a particularly interesting program because it's a program that's very near and dear to the hearts of AAUW. It is one of our own programs called Tech Trek. Tech Trek is a math and science camp program at Stanford, held at Stanford for 1 week. It's a residential camp for 1 week each summer. It is an outgrowth of AAUW's desire to see that we have more women become mathematicians, scientists, and engineers, and these are our budding mathematicians and scientists. They are 7th grade girls. Well, they're 8th grade girls now. They were 7th grade when they were chosen. They went through a very rigorous selection process, and we actually had 6. One girl couldn't be here tonight. There were so 6 girls who were sent by the Los Altos Mountain View chapter of AAUW to this science camp at Stanford this summer. And now I'm going to ask them each to introduce yourself. I'll start with Cindy, your name and the school you go to.
My name is Cindy and I go to Crittenden.
My name is Yael and I go to Egan.
My name is Alyssa and I go to Block.
Okay.
My name is Meredith and I also go to Egan.
My name is Katie and I go to Block.
Good. And as you can tell, these are all girls who were chosen from middle schools, public middle schools in Los Altos and Mountain View. Now, for how many of you was this the first time you were away from home overnight or a couple of nights without any members of your family?
Me.
Well, for you, Yael.
Yeah.
Good. And because, you know, you're young and the rest of you are world travelers, I guess. Solo world travelers without the rest of your family. What were, Cindy, what were the living arrangements like?
We lived in dorms and there were like 2 people or 1 person for a roommate. And so it was pretty comfortable, but it took a while to get used to.
To get used to?
The sleeping arrangements.
Yes. Now, Yael, in your room as your roommate, was it one of these other girls?
No, I had Elle, another girl from another district area, and we had kind of separated rooms. We had 1 room and then a door separating the 2 rooms, and we each had a closet and a desk and a bed. It was very comfortable.
Okay, very good. And now, Alyssa, how about you? No, here's Alyssa. Sorry. Why don't we start out talking about what a typical day at Tech Trek would. What time did you get up, and then what?
Well, we would wake up pretty early. I can't remember exactly what time
I think
we
it
woke
was like
up.
7:30.
Yeah, I think it was like 7:30.
Maybe earlier.
But then we'd go to breakfast, and they had like this huge assortment of food that you could choose from. It was really good. And
So there was nobody saying, gosh, there's nothing here for me to eat.
Yeah, and you kind of had to learn to make healthy choices for yourself.
Not have ice cream for breakfast.
Yeah, some people did that.
And some people did well. There you go.
They had like 2 or 3 different kinds of cake and pie every single
my
night.
God.
And there was
yeah.
an ice
So
cream
delicious.
machine and a gigantic soda
There
machine.
were waffles
for the
The
There were waffles. Oh.
The food there, I think the food there, like in that specific cafeteria, was like really pretty high quality food, which was nice because you got to have like a lot of choices of food and stuff.
Now, were all the girls who were at your camp, which how many? 120?
88.
Oh, 88.
Yeah.
Did they all eat in that cafeteria at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so
it
after
averaged about
So-
when we came.
Okay. So Katie, after breakfast, what did you do?
Well, after breakfast, we went back to the dorms and we got ready, and then we went to our core classes, which is before lunch, and
Yeah,
that
so-
was about
So the morning was spent in. Meredith, what were the core? What does she mean by the core classes?
So there were 4 core classes. There was like brain math, and then there was forensics, marine biology, and then chemistry of food. And it was where you spent kind of 3 hours, and it was something that you'd like chosen, although not everyone got the choice they wanted to. And it was a focus kind of on what you wanted to focus on, and it was kind of like a more fun version of school, but without the pressure of grades and school and homework and that kind of
So
stuff.
you could learn without worrying about focusing on what might be on a test.
Yeah.
A lot more
Yeah.
fun.
So
It
when
was
you,
a lot more fun.
Cindy, when we talk about being able to make some choices from the 4 core classes, how does that fit in with? I understand there's a track for math and a track for science. Is that correct?
Yes.
So did somebody in the math? Did you have the same? If you were in the math, were you by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were in the math in the math track. Did you have the same 4 choices as one of you who might have been on the science track?
Well, we chose, like, we had a list and we numbered which ones we wanted to
Of
have.
the core classes.
Yes. So I decided to put math and brain training as my first choice. We still do the same activities as the one in forensic science, marine biology, and food chemistry. But like we learn different things during the core classes.
Okay. So then, Yael, you spent the morning at your core classes. Then what? Then a break for lunch, presumably?
Then there was lunch, and that was kind of like breakfast. You go in with your pass, and you get whatever you like, and the food was really good there too. And then later you have like different activities that you could do. Like there was
After lunch.
After lunch, yeah. So there was like there was Star Night, there was the Bat Lady that came in, Pixar Lady.
Oh, the Bat Lady. Oh, okay. So,
Vet. So
Yeah.
a bunch of different activities. Can't remember all of them, but
and they were most of the afternoon, or
yeah, they took up a lot of time.
did the bat? That whole issue of the bats is interesting to me in a creepy kind of way. But Alyssa, did everybody have the class with the bats, and what did you think of it?
I think we had rotations where half of us would go to see the Bat Lady and half of us would be doing something else. The bats were pretty cool. They
How big are they?
the one she brought in was like could fit in her hands. It was really tiny with its head
Oh.
peeking out, and it was so cute.
Well, that's good that they were. It was cute.
One thing we learned though is that there's not all bats are like vampire bats. That there's only like 3 types of vampire bats, and they don't suck bloods of humans and stuff. So they're not as creepy as
Yeah,
you might
most are
think.
fruit bats. And
they're
they just
not,
Ah.
Or insects.
and they're not
Go ahead.
harmful. They're actually really sweet.
And of the vampire, how many varieties of bats are there? About.
There was like there's a lot. I think it was
there's
over.
over 1,000.
Oh my goodness! So if there are only 3 that are vampire bats,
It's
they're-
not a very big percentage, and they only
Yeah.
will like suck the bloods of
And they-
animals, not
Yeah,
humans.
And they don't even live here. Like,
Yeah.
in the
That's
And they
cool.
take so like a low percentage of blood of the animal they go to. They don't even like the animal doesn't notice.
Oh.
It's like a vaccine.
Okay.
So the myth about
it's-
blood sucking bats.
Not that dangerous.
Yeah.
So tell me, you said in the afternoon, half of whatever group would go on one afternoon to the Bat Lady, and the other half went somewhere else. Did you then switch the next day? Did the half that didn't have the bats see the bats?
I think that overall, like you got a schedule at the beginning of the week, and depending on what group you were, based on your core class, you'd be with the people who you were with your core class, and everyone got the chance to do almost all the activities. But you would switch. So maybe on Monday you went to go see the bats, and then Tuesday the afternoon you got to see the Pixar Lady, and then Wednesday you did something else. So everyone got a chance to do them, but it wasn't like exactly switching every day and stuff.
So Yael, what was the Pixar? That's always a very popular one.
So I saw the Pixar Lady before at a previous meeting, but I'm always entertained. I mean, she's amazing.
Oh, you had seen her somewhere else?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's amazing. She showed us this program, and she created like a table from a scene, and she showed us like she put the little points in, and then it was using a graph, and she could like do an X and Y, like the X and Y axis and everything like that, and it was
Was
fantastic.
Did you all enjoy that? I assume all of you.
Yeah.
We have a pesky fly in here, but.
Those flies.
And now, Katie, what track were you on?
I was on the marine biology.
And so you went out on the bay.
Yeah, we went out on the bay and we did lots of experiments and we got to learn a lot about marine biology.
Did you go in the afternoon?
Yes, so we went in the morning actually, and then we spent most of the day out on the boat.
Oh, that must have been fun. And you saw a lot of different species of marine life?
Yeah, so we saw lots of different fish, and they had a lot of fish, and they had mud samples and water samples, and it was really great.
Oh, that would be, especially, you don't think of mud, did you say mud samples?
Mud samples, yeah.
That's, now, how many of you were in the science track?
But she was in marine biology and we were in the forensics class. So we were in different classes, but they were both like science related.
Let's talk about the forensics. Meredith, what was that like?
It was kind of like we did a series of different science labs, and like we would test for different things. Like we used iodine to test if there was starch and stuff like that, and we also did a couple of logic puzzles to kind of decide who might have done something. And kind of the main thing, it was based on like crime solving and stuff. So we would get to everyone got a bite mark sample, and then they'd have 5 people's bite mark samples and then an evidence one, and you'd have to figure out who was the bite marks and you compare them. And we did the same thing with fingerprinting and lip printing and a lot of variety of different things.
Alyssa, did you take the forensic class?
No, I was in math.
Yeah,
I
took
Oh, okay, I'll come back to you in a second because I want to follow this forensic. Whose teeth bite marks were they? Did everybody give a sample, or did there was something that they brought in
they
from
only
out?
there were about 20 kids in each class, so it was kind of hard to choose from 20 one of the samples because so many of them are similar. They just chose about 5 or 6
That
for
were very
each.
different, or
They wanted to make it a little bit tricky, so they did, some of them were very similar. So you really had to look for those like signals, and if there was one dent, and it was actually Meredith was the.
Except for everyone thought it was a different girl's teeth, and except for I knew because I had to do 2 molds, but everyone, I guess tricked everyone that it was somebody else's.
you have a tricky mouth.
We did a lot of other things though. We did lip prints and we did saliva testing, which was really fun.
Is this sort of like the program, the CSI program on TV?
Yeah.
Without people running after you, shooting you and stuff.
Well, we don't like to
Besides
lose
that.
girls. So,
Yeah, along the way.
Alyssa, to get back to you, so you were in the math group,
Yes.
and which of the core courses did you take?
I took math and brain training.
Oh, just the same as Cindy.
Yeah.
I'm actually really interested in biology, but since I was so late in turning my form in, I got placed in math.
This is what happens in life, huh?
Yeah.
Still.
It was still extremely fun. I was thinking, oh no, math, but it turned out to be really fun.
At least there were no tests. Or
Yeah.
too. And then there were certain things that you all took in common, I assume. Yes. So, just Cindy, did Tech Trek? Did you have certain expectations, and did it meet those expectations?
Well, for Tech Trek, like when I thought of Tech Trek, I thought it's gonna be like a nerdy camp, and like all we do is like work. But like we got to go to the pool, and it like exceeded my expectations because we didn't just learn. We did other fun activities that we were learning at the same time, but we kind of didn't know.
Yes, which is the best way. So, Katie, you obviously had certain expectations as well. Was there any sense in that you expected something and that just never happened? Were you disappointed in any way?
I was definitely not disappointed. I was a little bit surprised at a lot of things. Like, for one, how many girls there were. I was expecting it to be a lot smaller of a camp, but with so many girls, I made so many friends, and I'm really glad about that. So there wasn't really any disappointments.
So, talking about with making a lot of friends. Did you all make? Of course, you each had some roommate, and incidentally,
She was my roommate.
were you two roommates?
Which was usually they don't put people from the same school together, but sometimes I guess they may put people from the same branch. So we ended up in the same room.
Even though you were both sent by the Los Altos Mountain View branch, but that's unusual, at least from what I've heard. That usually you're with someone. So those of you who had a roommate whom you didn't know when it began, are you still in touch with them?
Yeah.
I guess with email and texting.
They still text and call me like Molly and Elle. And they say, "Oh, who is this?" And they say, "Oh, it's Elle from Tech Trek."
Yeah.
And I say, "Oh, hi, how's it going?"
Now, your roommate, where was she from?
My roommate was from the Char branch, so Sacramento.
Oh, so you had girls from as far as Sacramento.
There was a few girls from Lake Tahoe as well.
Oh my
And
goodness.
from Monterey and
like from the mountains.
San Francisco,
and stuff.
yeah,
Because,
everywhere.
when this camp started 14 or 15 years ago, it was strictly in the Bay Area, Palo Alto, Los Altos, that area. It was the only one in the state. It was the first time it had been done. And now there are, I believe, either 10 or 11 of these, 2 at Stanford, but others from all over the state as far south as San Diego, and there is one in Mills College, I believe, in Oakland. So it's interesting to me that there were girls even from Lake Tahoe. And Yael, where was your roommate from?
I'm not sure, but she had to drive about 2 hours to get there. So
So that was, and of course, once you're there for the week. So,
right.
has this had, what kind of an impact has this had, this whole Tech Trek experience, on what you might major in when you go to college?
Well, I didn't know there were so many opportunities. Like, I didn't think about, ever being a dentist. Like, I never thought of that as I mean, I know it's a profession, but now that I, know that people do it, they describe what they do, what they like about it, what they don't. And at the Professional Women's Night, which was great because we got to learn about all these opportunities, there was an environmentalist that went to Antarctica for her research. And I thought that was so interesting because I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, so any of the others of you, the Professional Women's Night, you had obviously women from many different professions. Was there something that struck you, just as Yael is saying, oh my gosh, I never thought of that?
I think it really opened the doors of kind of showing, because they had, can't remember how many, but there were quite a few women who came in from all these different types. There was nurse, dentist, person from Antarctica, there was a vet, all these different, who went to Antarctica, all these different professions. So it kind of showed you that there's not limitation in math and science. There are so many different fields that you can go into. And there wasn't necessarily one that said, oh, I really want to do that, but it just expanded my knowledge of all the different things that you could maybe do when you were in college.
So Alyssa, how did that night strike you? I mean, what did you get out of it?
Well, there was a veterinarian there, and I've always really loved animals, and that's what I wrote my essay about. I love animals so much that I just want to be with them for the rest of my life. So it didn't change what I wanted. It more made it more intense and made me think, wow, I can actually do this.
And how about you, Katie?
Well, I guess my whole life, this is kind of weird, but I always thought of a scientist as a person that works in a white lab coat in a little lab with a microscope. And I was always like, oh, that sounds extremely boring and I don't want to do that. So
And white is not your color anyway, right?
of course not, no way. Pink, purple. So I was always kind of anti-science, and I was never really into math. But when I started learning more about it in 7th grade, I started, I don't know, I guess it kind of opened up my eyes. So the Professional Women's Night was great because, for instance, the nurse practitioner, I'd never thought about that before. I always thought of doctors and bloody people, and I was freaking out. And I was yeah, and I was like, no way. But now I'm thinking that that'd actually be a really interesting profession, and I might want to look into that more.
So Cindy, did you, as a result of that night, what did you come away thinking about as far as professions?
Well, I really liked math, for a long time, but for science, I was on a I liked science, but it wasn't my favorite subject. So I I got an idea of what I could do because I liked math, like maybe become an engineer.
That's our hope. And certainly, I think there's a lot of math involved in engineering. Now, did you have projects that you had to do while you were there?
Yeah.
And Katie, how did they decide on projects?
Well, they were all really small projects, so it wasn't something that you needed to stress about.
What were they like?
Well, for instance, in marine biology, we did a lot of drawing projects. So we had to make models of like the ocean and stuff. And we had to do a dissection. And that was actually, I was kind of scared, but it was actually really great. And it wasn't, they always made sure to keep things small, so it wasn't stressful. It was actually really great because it was like the intenseness of a project, but it wasn't too much.
Did you work in pairs or in teams?
Well, it depended on the project. For the drawing, one of them we did it in a team of 2, and then one of them we did it by ourselves. And then when we did one that was we had to build a boat, so we had to figure out how to make the boat float, and that we worked in pairs also. And they were all different people, so it was really great. We got to learn a lot.
Now, Yael, we were talking earlier, and you were telling me about an astronomy project. Was that the project that you worked on? And
It wasn't a project. There was like astronomy night or star night.
yes.
And a bunch of these people came in, and they brought their telescopes, and we looked inside, and we saw, the moon, the stars, their different colors, and they taught us a little bit
Maybe if
about.
we got him a chair and gave him a mic.
Yeah.
Can go right here.
And so we looked at the moon, and it was in so much detail. Like, you look and there's this big white circle, but when you look in detail, you see like the shadows and the dents, and you see if it's a full moon or not. And they were all really nice, and they taught us a little bit about what the color means.
The color of the different shadings in the moon?
Not in the moon, like the stars. Like
okay.
how the heat like relates to the color. And then also we made a star finder.
Yes.
And it's this paper thing, and you turn it around and you see, according to the month, what constellations you can find.
So then you had a better idea of what to look for.
Exactly.
Now, who of you took the food chemistry course?
None of us.
Taya
Nobody.
did.
There was one girl who did, but she's the one who wasn't here today.
Yes, that's Taya Buffin from Crittenden, who couldn't be here tonight.
Sounds like a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, there was a video, I guess, that was made.
I heard they had like a McDonald's mini meal, and they like put it in a blender and
I
grind,
saw
and
the
like
fat. And the
saw like,
Yeah.
and then just dissected it by like what all the different types of like what's bad for you and what's not. That's
don't
in the
think-
McDonald's mini
I
meal.
don't think I'm ever going to eat a Happy Meal ever again. That's disgusting.
I never did.
Well, maybe I don't know that they were purposely trying to do that, but that's a healthy thing. Which reminds me again, jumping back to the cafeteria, was there anyone there, some adult who would say, "Oh, you shouldn't be having that second piece of pie"?
No way.
Okay, so you were just really treated like adults, and you were on your own.
I think we said that to ourselves.
Elle, don't go getting more soda. You're gonna be off the
Another-
walls tonight.
Well, it was like, since nobody was telling us what to do, we were all like, whoa, there's so many things. Maybe I shouldn't have them. You know, it just kind of made us intimidated, I guess. All the food.
Now, towards the end of the week, I assume, well, here you've been exposed to all these different possible career choices, and you're thinking about college at some point in the future. And one of the, in any way, did you feel that you became more open to different colleges? Or is that just too far into the future at this point?
It's a little too far.
Too far.
Sure.
I don't know, I
Okay.
think they're-
But I don't know if they did this year, and I'd like you to tell me. Did you have any sessions just at any place where they talked about college costs and how they?
Yes.
We had like a financial night, and they were talking about like how it's possible to go to a really, really good school even if your family can't like support it and stuff. So it kind of showed you that it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can probably still like be able to get into a good school. And about like the possibilities for colleges, honestly, I've always really wanted to go to Stanford. When I was little, it was because like I wanted to go somewhere near home. But then it was great to be able to see the campus and learn more about the school, but also learn about like what college would be like, living in a dorm and going to the cafeteria and having more responsibility.
So was that, I imagine that was, Alyssa, knowing that if you want to go to a certain school and if you can have the grades and the, you know, obviously that's a given, but that you didn't have to worry too much about what the cost might be. Was that a factor at all?
It was. I've always kind of wanted to go to Stanford too because my dad went there and he's always like talking about how great it is, singing the Cal fight songs and stuff. But, yeah, it definitely contributed to that because I learned that there's a lot of financial support out there. She talked about, like, if you're a Huguenot, they'll give you money.
Oh yeah, the scholarship for the Huguenot. That was
Scholarship for the Huguenot.
it was the grandchild of
They
the
don't give
Huguenot.
full scholarships anymore, but they do give little amounts of money.
Yeah. And in the end, that all adds up, so it'll help.
Sure. And that's not only true of Stanford, that's true of
Oh, yeah.
For other colleges.
so many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and speaking of costs, one of the things that we had, you know, any one of you who came, you can't buy your way into to Tech Trek. You can't have parents who say, well, I want my daughter to go and here's the money. No, you have to be given the scholarship, campership, and go through the whole process that you all went through. And that requires AAUW to raise a lot of money. And so before we wind it up for the night, I wanted to thank those people in the branch who worked hard to raise money. We have a lot of fundraisers throughout the year, but also, you probably aren't aware of it, but in this case, in Mountain View and Los Altos, the two Rotary clubs and the Kiwanis clubs have contributed camperships as well. So for us, we just really are all grateful that they're there supporting all of you girls. And I hope, do any of you have any idea? Well, here I know that Cindy said she's thinking about becoming an engineer. And do any of you have any ideas of a veterinarian? How about, yes, Yael?
So when I came to Tech Trek, I was thinking about more neurology. Like I really liked the brain and how it worked and different cells and stuff. And
Okay.
when I came, I wanted to be an environmentalist.
Okay, and either of the other two of you, but we just have to wind it up because we're just at the end. Quickly, if you know.
I don't know. I'm thinking about nurse practitioner or
Okay.
a biotech.
And Meredith? You're open.
I'm open.
Okay, anyway, this was a very interesting talk. I thank all of you girls for coming tonight and making it a really lively program. And I want to thank you all for watching AAUW Connections.